With the first pick in the 2024 NFL Draft.
Welcome back into another episode of the Daft on Draft podcast. As always, I am Corey Kinnan, and still alongside me today is James Foster here. And today we've gotten through tight ends, we've gotten through corners, and so we're moving on to quarterbacks. And I know there's been a decent amount of quarterback talk on this podcast already. You know, I did the episode with Nate Tice, and Dalton and I have talked a little bit about quarterbacks, but James and I are going to spend a little bit more time in depth on each of these quarterbacks going through here. We're going to start with 6 of the bigger names / upperclassmen tonight as we record this podcast. All but one is an upperclassman, but, you know, we'll talk about LaNorris Sellers, too, because he's one of the bigger names in the class. But before we do that, James, how was your weekend? Welcome back in.
Yeah, weekend was great. A lot of garden care. And, I've been watching this quarterback class for, like, the last 3 weeks because I've been doing so much content on it. So, this is the final exam, I guess.
Yeah, we both have dropped quarterback rankings over the past 2 weeks here. So we'll be able to go through kind of our rankings at the end of probably Wednesday or Thursday, this episode, whenever we finish up talking about probably 10 of the guys in this class. But let's go ahead and start with the young guy here. You know, the rest are 4th years and above. So let's start with the young guy here. Let's talk about LaNorris Sellers. James, I'll let you kick off LaNorris Sellers here.
So LaNorris Sellers is my number one quarterback. I think one of the best arms in this class, and just the physical tools that you go with him are pretty spectacular. Mm-hmm. I think that if you wanted to say, like, what is his one trump card trait, it's the sack breaking ability. Built like a Mike linebacker. He's listed at 6'3", 237 pounds, I think, 240. Built like a Mike linebacker, runs like one as well. So he's got that short area explosiveness to make a defender miss in a phone booth, but then also the strength and the contact balance to shrug off sacks. Didn't quite have like the low pressure to sack rate that you might expect for someone with his physical tools, but over the first half of the season, his pressure to sack rate was in the 20s, and then over the last 6 games, it was 9.7%. So you did see some improvement there. I really thought that outside of physical traits, there wasn't a whole lot to hang your hat on with LaNorris Sellers. Comfortably one of the least accurate quarterbacks in this class, I think, especially within 25 yards. To me, didn't really see the field very well, especially the middle of the field. Not a whole lot of, when he does get to the backside of something, his receivers are waiting for the ball to come to him. Mm-hmm. So need to see a lot of steps in a lot of areas with the LaNorris Sellers game. But I mean, he's closer to getting his driver's license than he is to being in his NFL prime. So like that's the age and the lack of experience is a really important thing to remember with him.
Yeah. So talking about LaNorris Sellers, I actually really like his deep ball. I like his deep ball quite a bit, but he doesn't throw it very often. The amount of explosives through the air are pretty limited. And I really like that what you brought up about, when his receivers come out of their breaks, they're kind of waiting on the football. And that's my biggest area for growth with Sellers this next season is like, we talk about the big arms so much. I actually think that like he's got a pretty strong foundation as a pocket passer. Like you can see him wanting to stand in structure, wanting like to work through progressions and make those throws, get his eyes backside, do the things that you want a quarterback to do. I think he just lacks a lot of arm arrogance, and I just want him to like show some arm arrogance, like take some risks, take some chances. I think he was very risk averse through the air last year. To the point where, like, I mean, I've said on this podcast before, and you just mentioned as well, like receivers will get out of their routes, and it's almost like he needs them to give him a thumbs up before he'll throw the football. It's just like anticipate those windows a little bit more, put the ball on him when they're getting out of those breaks, show some arm arrogance. I see him fighting against that mold though of like, no, he's a running quarterback. He fights against it so hard, but like almost to an extent where like, I don't know if you notice this as well. When he's taking these 5 and 7 step drops, he's not stepping back up. He'll just sit at depth and like give pass rushers really easy angles to him. It's like you got to climb back up a little bit, step back up into the pocket a little bit. I know his offensive line isn't very good, but like make it a little bit easier on them as well by reducing those angles you're giving pass rushers to come after you as well. But the tools are there, obviously. In terms of weighted on target percentage, I have him about middle of the class. But again, that deep ball kind of adds into that weight quite a bit. Outside the numbers, I have him at 60%. Over the middle, I have him at 65%. Both those numbers are below average. And so, but what I do have as well is that short game is right above average there. And that's not a timing thing with Sellers. I think his timing in the short game could be a lot better. But it is that break sack ability and ability to kind of make something happen outside of structure and find those receivers hanging out along the boundaries. A lot to work with. Sellers is my quarterback 2 coming into the season. Let's just hop to my quarterback 1 then. And because I'm interested in your takes on Fernando Mendoza, Cal transfer to Indiana. For me with Mendoza, the deep ball accuracy could be better, but when I look at his body of work over the middle of the field, outside the numbers, 73%, over the middle of the field, 78% is what I have him charted at, which is by far the best in the class at both those levels of the field. And I don't know if the data you have represents that as well. But what I love most about Mendoza, and it's something that I didn't really see in last year's class, and it kind of served as a palate cleanser for me coming in and watching these quarterbacks this year, because he's the first one that I watched because I jotted him down. I was like, this kid's got something there. One, it's his internal timer, man. I think it's tremendous. Like, he knows when to get out of there. He knows when it's time to find his check. He knows where his easy buttons are. I think that's something that a lot of these quarterbacks don't know as well. It's like, if I've got to get it out, I got to get it out. Here's where I'm going with the football. And Cal didn't make it easy on him a lot because there's a lot of 3-man vertical concepts. There's like, where do you expect him? Like, where do you expect him to go with this ball if this is covered? A lot of stuff like that. And then a lot of just like RPO hitch nonsense as well. So, but what I like most, and again, what I didn't see from last year's class, is like he gets his responsibility in pass pro. Like, that really for me is like he understands a lot of the pre-snap stuff that I didn't see a lot. He knows how to count defenders in the box versus the amount of guys that he's in protection. He knows what guy he's responsible for and man line of scrimmage away from the slide, and he knows when that guy's coming, and he knows when to get the ball out. Like, I just think his timer and his understanding of kind of the headier stuff is way ahead. Plus, I think he's got a plus arm. I wouldn't put it in the elite tier. I wouldn't put it in the Sellers tier for sure. I think it's better than Klubnik's. It's not in the Aller tier either, but like, it's a plus arm. I would put it at. Not overly flexible in terms of arm angles, stuff like that. Not overly quick in terms of rotating through his hips through that front shoulder. I do think he's a little elongated, but he's a good enough athlete to extend outside of structure. He's a good enough athlete to use his legs even in like read option designed run stuff. I see a complete picture with Fermin. Like, I think he checks all of the boxes that I want to see. Would it be nice to have seen it show up in the box score a little bit? Yeah, but like, go watch those Cal wide receivers get like rerouted out of bounds within 5 yards on like 80%. Not that's an exaggeration, but like his receivers outside of Jack Endries, who transferred to Texas, we talked about him last week. Like, outside of Jack Endries, there's not a consistent receiver that he's throwing the football to at Cal. Life should be much easier on him in Indiana from a scheme perspective, from talent around him perspective. And so I'm anticipating it. Like, looking back at the Curtis Rourke tape from a year ago, like Curtis Rourke was throwing into some chasms of windows, just like absolutely massive windows that had him schemed open. So I think we're sitting in a position where Fernando Mendoza could really explode, and it's going to show up in the box score this year versus like, I love what I see on tape, and it didn't really translate to a box score.
Yeah. You know, Cal's offense was just not really built to kind of like support the kind of offense that we would want to see from an NFL draft prospect. You mentioned the receivers, but also the pass pro. Anytime you had a pass rusher in last year's class and they went up against Cal, that was a good bet to be one of their best games. Yeah. So yeah, the offense had to be so quick game oriented. And I mean, as an Indiana fan, it's insane to me that Indiana is like a stabilizing offensive ecosystem now for a quarterback to go to. Yeah. We're talking about a quarterback going to Indiana, and like now they've got the weapons to succeed. It's pretty wild. But yeah, I mean, throwing to Elijah Surratt, they've got a pretty good O-line coming back, so it should be a better situation for him. And I'm with you. I mean, I think like to me the sample size of deep passes that he had was overwhelmingly really impressive. I mean, he made some throws like while he was taking a hit where I'm surprised
in there.
He was even able to release the ball, much less deliver it accurately. Some really impressive layered throws over the middle of the field. It's like all of the intermediate in-breaking stuff that I want to see. I love it from, 7 to 10 yards. I wish there was more of the kind of Drew Aller, Garrett Nussmeier, like 15 to 20 yard in breakers on his tape, but I think he can get that done. I guess the biggest thing holding me back with Mendoza, and I have him at quarterback 3, would be the lack of escapability. I think he makes some throws with his legs, but overall a 25% pressure to sack rate, led the Power 4 with 17 sacks on 3rd or 4th down. Like if he gets he can get kind of consumed by an overload blitz, like if he doesn't have an immediate outlet. So yeah, I think just lack of escapability would be my main thing with Mendoza, and then wanting to see more of those big time throws on tape. He only had, I think it was 12 big time throws, 12 or 13 last year, and 5 of them came against Stanford in the last game of the season. So just targeting the deep areas of the field more.
Yeah, that Stanford game though, like he's got one of the most impressive throws in that Stanford. Well, he's got some quite a few more impressive, like the Auburn game, which was like really early in the season. He's getting tabletopped, like his legs taken out beneath him. He throws that back shoulder like right on the money while getting just completely upheavaled, like upside down. But that Stanford game, and I should add this about Mendoza as well. I think he's one of the best 2-minute quarterbacks in the class too. Like you can find that Stanford game, the NC State game. He drives them all the way down the field and they miss like a 30-yard field, like go ahead field goal. Like in that game, leads them all the way down the field in that 2-minute drill. That Stanford game though, he throws a post route over a defender while getting hit in the chin. Like his arm is getting hit as he's releasing that ball, and he places that ball perfectly over the shoulder of his receiver, over top of a man coverage defender on that post. It is kind of those RPO like post alerts that he finds that I find really impressive as well. Like I broke one down in the NC State game where like trip side he sees zero and he just throws the freaking post against zero. Completely abandons the concept, throws the alert. So some really stuff like that. It's the pre-snap, it's the heady stuff that like really allows me to buy really easily into Mendoza. Let's talk about Cade Klubnik. Klubnik comes in at my QB3, your QB2.
Yep.
So with Cade Klubnik, I think what I like most about Klubnik is that you have been able to see that he's hitting landmarks every season of his college football career. Like his trajectory, his growth, his development is very much linear. Like it is as linear as it can get in the upward direction. And so like when we talk about that, I think it's pretty easy to anticipate another leap. Like if we're talking every year's been linear, then why can't this year be linear? In terms of the arm, I think his arm is really flexible. It's very very flexible. He can throw from some different angles, different platforms. In terms of velocity and drive on the football, I wouldn't put it. I'd probably put it like a B plus, like maybe like an 87% if I were grading it like in between B and B plus. But his layer throws are really good. His touch throws are really good. And at the end of the day, I think Cade Klubnik's going to run like a 4.5. Like I think he's that good of an athlete. I think he's going to run on the 4.5s in the 40. Weighted on target percentage wise, it could be better. His accuracy could definitely be better. I have him about 50% on the deep ball, 66% outside the number, 68 over the middle of the field. So about average over the middle of the field. But his short game body of work is pretty bad. Like it's sub 80%, which is pretty bad for the short game. And so like I think he needs to raise his floor still. So with Klubnik, I think we've seen that development mainly because like his floor, his sophomore year specifically, was very low. Like you go watch the Georgia Southern game his sophomore season and you're like, this is this is awful football. Like this is really bad quarterbacking compared to that floor continues to raise. But I see that volatility index, and I think I've kind of come to understand my metric, my weighted on target percentage metric, as maybe more of a volatility index. Like the higher the number, the least volatile you are. So I think that Klubnik is still a bit volatile, but you can see that progression. I think you can see obvious steps where that floor can continue to raise for him.
Yeah, a much safer bet than what it seemed like he was going to be at certain points in his career.
Yeah.
I hadn't studied him super in depth, but obviously I watch pretty much every Clemson game just with how many draftable prospects they are, and I can remember a lot of specific just crazy decisions that he's made over the years from not even watching him specifically, but he had, let's see, the highest PFF grade under pressure this year. It went from 77.8 from 38.4 in 2023 to 77.8 this past year. Second highest success rate when under pressure on third or fourth down, behind Kyle McCord last year. And then also led college football in deep completions. So really when you look just statistically across the board, like you said, linear positive improvement. And there's a lot of boxes that he checks. I would evaluate his arm very similarly. I would say release and flexibility would be A to A minus. I would say velocity would be B minus, and then arm strength would be maybe C plus. He's one of a couple quarterbacks that I think has never eclipsed 50 air yards on a throw, but really good deep accuracy, and makes good decisions within what Clemson asks him to do. I think that Clemson's offense is probably somewhere in the midpoint between Tennessee and a pro style offense, where he isn't being asked to target the middle of the field that much. And so, and I thought that anticipation was a weakness for him at all areas of the field. On outbreaking routes, it's, I guess, it's more just throwing before the receiver's out of his break, but then also didn't really see anticipation as far as hitting backside in breakers. So if it's able to be a more translatable offensive system, I think that's probably an area that his stock could improve. But for Klubnik, I see him as kind of somebody that has maybe less room to grow than definitely the other three quarterbacks in my top four.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the lower body tools help with his ceiling a little bit, but the arm I think is definitely a little more capped off. Were you surprised when you saw that both NFS and Blusto had day 3 grades on him?
I didn't notice that, but yeah, that is pretty surprising.
They both got day 3 grades on him. I have a 3rd round grade on him. Again, I don't put the quarterback bonus in my grading scale. I know some people do put that. It's typically a half round bonus into their grading scale with quarterbacks. I don't do that. Mendoza and Sellers were the only two that got 2nd round grades or above. I don't have a 1st round grade on a quarterback through summer scouting.
I don't either
at this point. So, but Klubnik came in with a 3rd round grade for me. Again, the floor needs to come up again because the arm's not going to get better. The lower half tools are there, but the floor needs to come up for sure for Klubnik this year. Let's move on. I also want to mention that outside of these 3 quarterbacks, I'm not really bought into anybody else in this class. I think that's worth mentioning. So we're going to talk about quarterbacks 4, quarterbacks 5, quarterbacks 6, and it's outside of these 3, really, I can't buy into many more. I think I can buy in a little bit to Garrett Nussmeier, specifically as just a high floor quarterback, the Mac Jones quarterback of the class, the quarterback the team settles on because this guy can come in and he can at least give us the bare minimum. He could be a bus driver. That's kind of what I see Garrett Nussmeier is, but in all honesty, his accuracy was kind of bad for a quarterback that you want to come in and be that high floor guy.
Are we doing Nuss next?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm with you, except I have a different quarterback that would be that I also believe in. But yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. So like I have his deep ball grade at 45%. Outside the numbers at 62%. His body of work over the middle is really good. That's 72%. And his short game stuff is pretty good. I think when he's kept clean, he's very good. But if you go watch the second half of that Texas A&M game, like the first half of that Texas A&M game, you're like, oh yeah, Garrett Nussmeier. Second half, they start rotating safeties out. They start simulating pressure. They start throwing some stuff at him post snap that he wasn't picking up pre snap, and he was completely lost. Like he couldn't find flat receivers. He couldn't see flat defenders. He threw a pick six to I think Will Leaf the third in that game, like to the flat in that game. Like he was completely a different quarterback. So I think he's really a quarterback that you could trick a lot with post snap rotations, and that's pretty concerning. I will say with his deep ball accuracy, he didn't have a receiver to throw the ball down the field to last year until Chris Hilton came back, and which was late in the season. This year they went out and they got Barryon Brown. They went out and they got the Anderson from Oklahoma. Yeah, Nick Anderson from Oklahoma. Like they have surrounded him with every ounce of talent that they could have, and so there's no excuse for him not to be like, in all honesty, a Heisman candidate with all of the talent that they put around him. But again, he's not an athlete. Like people want to throw around the Tony Romo comp for him. I don't think people understand how athletic Tony Romo was and how creative Tony Romo was at like avoiding pressure and making stuff happen when structure was breaking down. Nussmeier's only good when structures are really good around him. So I think like a Mac Jones comp is more appropriate for a guy like Garrett Nussmeier than Tony Romo.
Yeah, I'm out on Garrett Nussmeier as of now. I just can't do it. I mean, I think that so to me, anticipation and pocket presence are two of his A+ traits. And then I think he's deficient in pretty much every other area.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned athleticism. He was the only quarterback in this class who didn't eclipse 16 miles per hour last year. 15.34 was his top speed. Also had the lowest top acceleration of any quarterback in this class. And this is for somebody who is under 6'1", 204 pounds. Like pretty much the worst possible like physical profile that you could have. You're not really getting anything in that phase. And then you've got a quarterback whose best trait is his fearlessness attacking tight windows, and his worst trait is his inability to drive the ball into tight windows. So, like, I mean, I think that the inability to put zip on the ball, I think that leads to a lot of his inaccuracy because he's trying to overcompensate with his, mechanics kind of unraveling. The deep ball, I described it, defenders waiting for it like a game of jackpot, like it resets. Yeah. You're just at a standstill. It's kind of fluttering in the air. He's oblivious to any like hook defender sinking into the passing lane that he's trying to target. And so that leads to him being extremely reckless with the football. There's aren't enough selling points for me with Garrett Nussmeier. And I think like if he does do a better job protecting the football, if he's more accurate, then I would be on board with Nussmeier as like a late first round pick. Maybe 16 to 25, but not at this point. Like the details of his game are just not enough to offset all of the limitations.
Yeah. So my QB4 is actually somebody else that we'll probably talk about another day, who's a 19-year-old who you either love him or you hate him. Yeah, we'll talk about him probably tomorrow. I'm going to assume that Drew Aller is your guy that you might be willing to bet on a little bit. Then, dude, I couldn't be further out on Drew Aller, so we're flip flopped on that one. Yeah, but
you and Ryan hate him. Me and Ryan were arguing about him.
He's something.
Okay, so I mean, I have Drew Aller as quarterback 4. I think he's got the best arm in this class pretty comfortably.
Pretty comfortably. I would agree with that.
In terms of range, just effortless zip on drive throws. And then, also being able to throw with touch, especially down the sideline. He has historically been really good at avoiding sacks. I think his pocket movement is excellent. He's got, he's kind of like Mendoza in a way where he isn't that escapable. And if he gets surrounded by a bunch of free runners, he will get taken down some. But he's got this play that's burned into my mind. 4th and 10, Big Ten championship against Oregon. He's got Mateo Uyunglele literally holding onto his jersey and leaning back with his full body weight, and he's able to zip a throw into the end zone. So I like his ability to avoid sacks. I think he's probably second to Nussmeier in terms of reading to the middle of the field, getting to the backside of his progression. So I think it's a really good starting point just with arm talent, pocket presence, working the middle of the field. When I watched Drew Aller last summer, I gave him an incomplete grade because the accuracy was just so bad. And this year he kind of stepped it up to league average by college football standards. But I thought it kind of regressed a little bit towards the end of the season. And you still want to see another similar step. I also thought he played awful against Notre Dame.
It's one of the worst quarterbacking games of the season.
Yeah.
It's bad. Yeah.
I went into the season kind of this is a first round talent, needs to put it all together. I thought over the first 8 games, he was kind of playing his way into the first round and then played his way back into the second to third round, just with his performance down the stretch. I also thought he did a better job throwing the ball against Boise State, but I thought almost all of if you took however many it was, 3 or 4 worst sacks he took all season, I thought they were all against Boise State. So yeah, I just want to see a more consistent body of work, I think, first and foremost, and not have these bad games that I have to justify to believe in Drew Aller. So that's the first step. And then just another kind of solid step forward in terms of accuracy. But if he's able to check those boxes, to me, he's a really easy first round pick. And if he goes above and beyond, I could easily see week 6 or 7 being yeah, this is the first overall pick.
I think my biggest issue with Drew Aller is that we're talking about a player who has undergone intensive private quarterback coaching since he was a freshman in high school. And some of just the bare minimum mechanics look awful still. At the very least, for a player that has gone over that. And I understand, you could go back and watch videos of from his quarterback trainer of when he first started training, he legitimately could not throw a football to becoming the rotational passer that he is now. But
he's new to the position, which I actually just realized.
So he started playing quarterback in the 9th grade. Was a late bloomer in recruiting. Didn't get a 4th star to I want to say end of his senior season into even recruiting. But that's my biggest concern is if it hasn't clicked yet, when you have if you have undergone that much intensive quarterback training, then either 1, it's time for a new quarterback coach, or 2, the fundamentals aren't sinking in to some extent. And that's worrisome to me. The accuracy, him and Garrett Nussmeier have almost an identical weighted on target percentage, around 60%, pretty low below average, would be tied for the lowest weighted on target percentage of a first round pick if they go first round with Anthony Richardson. So that's kind of the accuracy profile that we're talking about. 45% on his deep ball, 62% over the middle of the field, both under or below average there. His short game stuff is the highest in the class. I think his short game stuff is really good, but I also think he's really reliant on the short game. Again, for Aller, for as big as his arm is, it's again very hard to find explosive throws on tape. He'll have he
went 5 weeks last year where he didn't make a big time throw or similar type of throw.
I have 20 charted of all of his Power 5 or Boise State in the playoffs as well. Power 4 plus the Boise game in the playoffs. 20 in that stand.
Sounds about right.
My huge concern with Aller is any big game that he plays and he looks awful. The Ohio State game. People hype up the Big Ten championship game. That Big Ten championship game, I don't think is very good. He puts wow throws on tape, but the consistency down in and down out was not good in that game. You could say the same about SMU, and I think you could even say the same about Boise State. You take away the 2 touchdown throws in the first quarter. Again, I'm saying, take away his touchdown throws, but like, I mean, he completed like 50% of his passes in that game. And again, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I agree in general. I still think the Boise game, he made some, like, his receivers never get open.
That throw to Tyler Warren in the back of the end zone where Tyler Warren's on that over route into the back corner of the end zone is beautiful. Like, I will give him that. The Nick Singleton touchdown throw in the Big Ten championship game, beautiful. He will have some of the highest highs. He's
a player where it's hard to really evaluate his surrounding core and just like put it into a sentence, because he's obviously, like, from a production standpoint, there's so much inflated production with stuff to the running backs and Tyler Warren. And obviously, like, he's got a great offensive coordinator as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a really good offensive line. So, like, definitely, I mean, compared to some of the situations that you see, like, he's got a better situation. But his receivers didn't do shit last year. Yeah. So if you're looking for traditional, like, downfield passing, I understand why there's so much gimmicky stuff, but I want to see him. I know they've got like 4 stars in the transfer. I don't really know about them specifically as players, but want to see him with better receivers this year. Definitely.
For sure. Anytime he's moved off his spot, I just feel like, I mean, that Notre Dame, we could harp about the Notre Dame game, literally off, like, the bases that he throws from that game. And it's really anytime that I think that he starts to feel a little bit of pressure, his feet get a little roadrunnery.
Yeah.
And then, like, there's one where he's like throwing faders where his heels are almost clicking as he's trying to throw an out route, and he sails it like way out of bounds over the receiver's head. And the receiver's pretty open on like a 3rd and medium situation early in that game. But the tools are evident. I don't think he's as good as an athlete or as good as a runner as some people think he is. Like, I think he's pretty goofy mechanically as a runner. He can do a little bit of positive stuff.
He's got kind of like a Ben Roethlisberger-esque
Jameis Winston-y kind of aesthetic,
where it's like you feel like it's Thanksgiving with the nephews. Like, when he's in the pocket, he's got people bouncing off of him. He's kind of almost like Jokic, like playing basketball, where it looks like he's playing pool basketball, kind of as an athlete. But I mean, yeah, I guess I have like one more year of patience in me with Drew Aller than you do. I just think there's a lot of promising stuff. Like, I was looking at he's got some crazy metrics against the blitz. Like, I think he was didn't take a single sack on, I think, 24 times that the defense sent 6 or more. Had one of the highest success rates against the blitz last year. I just think because there was such a significant step forward with his accuracy last year, like, if it was just stagnant, I would kind of really not have any optimism. But because there was such a significant step forward, I'm like, okay, I could see something similar happening again. And in which case I view him as like kind of a stronger armed Fernando Mendoza in terms of his upside.
Interesting.
So yeah, I am still holding out a little bit of hope for Drew Aller.
All right. Well, there it is. We will be back talking more quarterbacks. I had a couple more on the agenda today, but we got 33 minutes in here. So I think we might just have to do 3 episodes of quarterbacks because there's a lot to talk about and a lot of like different tiers. Like, we've got 19-year-olds who could declare that have some fun tools to talk about. We've got some older guys, like 4th, 5th year guys who I don't really want to talk about, but we have to because people are talking about them. That'll probably be an episode. So we've got some names to work through here. So, and there's also one quarterback in particular. I guess if you subscribe to the Substack, you've heard me write, or you've seen me write about him, and you've seen where I've ranked him. He is an upperclassman that I'm pretty excited about to talk about in that episode as well. So,
Miller Moss.
Absolutely not. But that's going to be it for this episode, man. James, you got anything to share for the people?
I don't right now, but yeah, excited to get into the rest of this quarterback class.
Awesome. Well, that's going to be it for this episode of the Daft on Draft podcast. Until tomorrow, where we'll probably talk about old guys, the AARP group of quarterbacks in this year's class. This has been another episode of the Adapt on Draft podcast.
Build a polished wardrobe that shows you stay you wherever you go with Mack Weldon. Use code MAC25 for 25% off your first order of $125 or more at MackWeldon.com.